that reality may not appear or even be attractive to all of us because we're too busy dabbling with Moloch and Ashtaroth. We're too busy thinking that, no, there's actually something there for me. Christianity is great, but you know what? Money's really where it's at. And as long as we hold that, as long as we stick to those values and that understanding, I'm not talking about perfection, I mean just pursuing, we will never find what we're looking for. We'll never experience what we were designed for. We'll just continue to try. We'll continue to exist. And that's what Isaiah is challenging them with. And he's saying, you do these things, and then you say, why aren't you answering us? And he says, it's because you're not really following me. But it's not hatred. We just got done in 57 when he says, I'm going to do a bunch of great stuff for them. It's not that God is so mad and he's just done with them and he hates them. It's that he loves them and he sees the destruction it reaps, and that, either from a parent to a child or just those of us around us, when we live a life of idolatry, we pass it on to the people around us, especially our children. If we don't care about God, if we don't have a relationship with God, if we just go to church because we should, if our loyalties lie with money and politics and those things, then our children's will too. It's I'm not a super big Babylon Bee fan because I'm not sure just mocking Christians is really a great way to go. But years ago, a buddy of mine sent me an article. It's an article from the Babylon Bee, and it was couple doesn't understand why their kids don't go to college or go to church at college. And then they do an interview, and they're like, yeah, we just don't get it. I mean, if there wasn't the NFL, if there wasn't a family gathering, if there wasn't sports, if there wasn't, a nice day for the lake, if there wasn't a good day on the mountain, we always went to church. So I don't know why they don't understand going to church is important. Right? We think that we can value everything under the sun. We think we can say no to God in our own lives, and then somehow there's a secret part of us because we know it's wrong and we want better for our kids that we're like, hopefully they won't be like me. Hopefully they'll just grow up. And then we're like surprised where we're like, well, wait, why are you not prefacing God in that? And it's because we never did, or we rarely did. It's a pretty radical. And I'm not trying to be a jerk here. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be a jerk or any of that. I'm trying to say that there is a miraculous, unbelievably fantastic life that lies with Jesus. And it's not from religion. It's from knowing him. And the reality is, as long as we run to other things, we can't really experience him. It'd be like saying that you know your spouse, but you never go out on dates and you never talk to them. That you wouldn't know them. You would know about them a little bit. You'd be maybe kind of around them. But you're not really experiencing all that marriage has for you. So he goes on, he says, verse 3, he says, Isaiah is quoting them, why have we fasted, they say, and you have not seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves and you have not noticed? Yet on the day of your fasting, you do as you please and you exploit all your workers. So this is the point that we're making here. He says, look, they're like, we're doing the things. We went to church. We skipped some meals. Why didn't you see that? Why didn't you answer that? And that's like us, right? We're like in some sort of lifetime trauma that oftentimes we've created, or if we didn't create it, we've exacerbated it to some unbelievable, huge deal in our life. And then we show up to church once and we're like, well, that didn't help, so, forget God. You're like, really? You have a 10-year problem in the making and you're surprised that a half an hour didn't change it. That's not real. That's not honest. And that's what Israel's doing. They're running to Egypt. They're running to their idols. And then they have a day to fast. Like, hey, we fasted. Why didn't you answer us? And he says, the reason I didn't answer you is because you did what you wanted on that day. It's a profound selfishness that we have. We want to just sometimes, we want to just do the thing and get the stuff. We like the gifts more than the giver. The problem is that if we operate in that sense, we're really missing out on our ultimate calling, which is to know God, to be with him. Which might seem foreign, and I want to repeat this and reiterate this. If it seems foreign to you, and I mean this respectfully, or if it's foreign to me, to have a relationship with God and to know Him and to love Him, then we need to pursue that. You need to look into that. Why is that? Why would God be boring? It shouldn't be too surprising that we can look at, phones and TVs and computers and Xboxes and all those things and just be completely drawn in our bodies. They are literally built to attract your brain. But it takes time to build something of the soul. It takes time. It takes not being distracted. So he says, the first conviction he gives, we're not going to spend too much time on this, is he says, you exploit all your workers. He says there in verse 4, your fasting ends in quarreling and strife and in striking each other with wicked fists. You cannot fast as you do today and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I have chosen? Only a day for people to humble themselves? It is only for bowing one's head like a reed and for lying in sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? So one of the biggest issues in Israel, really for all history, and if you read Jeremiah, if you read Isaiah, you read Ezekiel, you read the minor prophets, one of the things that you're going to find is that God is very slow to judgment, very slow to the kind of radical correction, but I would say more often than not, and almost always, the prophets note that there's kind of one final thing that God says, okay, now you're done. And it's when they begin to oppress widows and when they begin to oppress orphans. And he says, when you begin, because widows were basically, it would be very hard to be a widow. Not because you were looked at as valueless, but because in a patriarchal society, your father's dead, your brothers are dead, your husband's dead. It's going to be a lot harder to exist. And I don't mean patriarchy and like what kind of third wave feminism is talking about. I'm just talking about a patriarchal kind of father-led society, not oppression, right? So he says, when you take advantage of vulnerable people, orphans and widows, almost every single time when the Assyrians, the Babylonians, all these people show up and decimate Israel, God says, now you're abusing the children and you're abusing widows. I'm coming to destroy you. I'm going to kill every male among you. It gets pretty radical really fast. And so in this, he's saying, look, you're fasting, but while you're having your little day of bowing your head like a reed, while you're rolling around in some ashes, you're not taking care of people. It was funny because last week we looked at, not funny, but interesting, this is a theme throughout the scripture. Last week we looked at John 13, and what did he say? In the last night he's on the earth, he says, I'm giving you a new commandment, and that is you love each other as I have loved you. All right, so that seems like a pretty robust love. He says, my command to you, very few times did Jesus ever say, I'm commanding you to do something. And in the Greek, it's an imperative. He is commanding. He said, I am commanding you to love each other as I have loved you. And then he goes on, he says, look, this is how all people, all men, all humankind is the Greek word, will know that you're my disciples if you love each other. Not if your doctrine's 100%, not if you're pre-trib or post-trib or mid-trib or no-trib, right? Not if your music is Maranatha, not Maranatha, hymns only, modern, not drums, no drums, not what your chairs are like, not what color your church is painted, not if you have, a cross, none of that. He said, no, they cannot know you're my people from those things. He says, no, they're going to know for real, that you're my people if you just care about each other. And so it shouldn't be too big of a surprise where he reaches back to Israel and he says, I'm not answering you because you don't care about vulnerable people. And you don't care about people that are even your own flesh and blood. He's going to go on to say that. He's going to say, he says, verse 6, is this not the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke? Now let me say this. Social justice, these type of things, they become buzzwords in our society, right? So we're separating the two. We're not promoting certain ideas about social justice here, we're talking about just justice in general, and that includes social issues. I guess what I'm trying to do is say, don't take everything and what social justice means today and then apply it to here. But he is talking about being just with everyone, being equitable, being kind, not equitable, and I'm not even, I hate that stuff. It's just like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. He's saying, love people. Treat them rightly. You don't do that, is what he's saying. He says, this is what my fast would look like. My fast is that you help people. My fast is that you untie the cords of the yoke, set the oppressed free, and break every yoke. Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? So he says, look, the fast that I'm looking for is not just a religious day where you bow your head, put on sackcloth, and roll in the ashes, which is interesting because there were Israeli holidays where they were supposed to do what? Bow their heads, put on sackcloth, and roll in ashes to remember their sin. So that was a very real thing that was a command to them on certain days. You have the day of Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. It's supposed to be quiet. It's supposed to be self-reflective, thinking about what God wants to do. And so he's not saying that those actions, he doesn't want those actions. They were in the law. He's saying it's the heart. The day without the heart is worthless, he says. And he says, this is what I want for my people. I want them to be setting people free. I want them to be helping hungry people. Again, I'm not even going to make suggestions as to what that means for you, because it's such a wide thing in our society what that means. You have people say, well, you should sell your home and give it to somebody else, or you should. No, I'm not saying any of that. Jesus never said any of that. But we do need to be listening to the Holy Spirit. We need to have open hearts, be available for people. And sometimes that's the thing, are we even available? And only you can answer that question. So he says, if that's what your life and your heart are like, in verse 8 he says, then your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you. The glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, here I am. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing finger and malicious talk. I camped on this in first. I want to do it here too. He's saying that we need to be a people. Now, this is to Israel, and the promises are to Israel. Okay, so we're not confusing it. We're not adopting these promises. The church is not Israel. These promises do not apply to us. Let me repeat that. These promises do not apply to us because they are for Israel. And we are the church. But we can look at these things and we can see the heart of God, which is why we're looking at it. And God's heart, and we'll look at it in the New Testament also, so just trust me for now. God's heart and what he's sharing here is if you are walking with me, if you are drawing near to me and not just merely exercising religious obligation as an option of something that might satisfy you as your other idols, then you will actually experience the things that you want. You will have healing. And just to throw it out there, how many of us, you can raise your hand if you want to, but please don't. How many of us have something in our heart where we need healing? I bet if we went around this room, I don't know how many people in this room, about 150. If we went around this room, I bet 99% of us could raise our hand and say, this event occurred in my life 30, 40, 20, 10 years ago, and it changes me to this day. And I wish it didn't. I bet almost every one of us could. And how many times have we tried to deal with that in weird ways? We all need healing. We all do. We have all of our own sin that we're to blame for. And some of that healing is because of that sin, and some of that healing is because of other people's sin. But he says, you want to know how you're going to find healing? It's not from shopping yourself out to other idols and trying to use other things. It's going to be from walking with God. And I guess that's part of the encouragement today. Walk with God. Give him more than 15 minutes or an hour or a day or a week or a year. Give him time. I would probably be fanatically ashamed if I knew how much time I'd spent on Xbox and TV over the course of my life. Just trying to escape problems or whatever, or just enjoying it, whatever it might be. And I wonder the TV time versus the God time, what that ratio would work out to be. And I just want to encourage you. That's the encouragement. God has incredible things for you. Incredible things. But let's be honest about what we're allowing him in to do. If he has my whole heart, or if he's just an option when all others are exhausted.